Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we are going to be making carré de agneau à moutarde. I probably pronounced that way wrong, but essentially it's rack of lamb with mustard and breadcrumbs and deliciousness. And I'm really excited to try this out because I love lamb and I love mustard. So let's get into it. The first step on our journey is to season our rack of lamb. Unfortunately, I could not get rack of lamb, so I have these loin chops here. Use or freeze by September 4th. This smells disgusting. Does anybody remember the pork loin roast video I did? Probably not. I don't think I uploaded that one because that was rotten meat. Luckily I bought 2 packs. So anyways, as I was saying, this calls for rack of lamb. I checked the 3 stores here in town. I could not find rack of lamb at all. I found it once before, so I was hopeful that I would be able to find it, but I just couldn't find it. So this is kind of what we're stuck with. This is the only lamb I could find, actually. I found lamb shanks, and I found lamb shoulder, and I found these. This smells much better. I'm glad I decided to do that. So we're gonna season this with salt and pepper on both sides. He doesn't say to pat this dry, but some lessons I've learned: always pat your shit dry. So some salt, some pep, so he calls for 1 garlic clove slightly crushed. I'm gonna do 3 because I like garlic. And I'm making this for me, not for a crowd of people at the Lay-All restaurant. All right, I'll also need a pinch of thyme leaves and rosemary leaves. We'll go ahead and get some rosemary here. There's our rosemary and thyme. Again, I'm not being too precise with this. I'm sure there's some thoughts and opinions about like this and the stems and stuff, but at the end of the day, I don't care. I've had some stressful days at work. If that means I'm gonna eat a lot of rosemary stem, then that means I'm gonna eat a lot of rosemary stem. Not rosemary, thyme. All right, give this a couple run-throughs. So I'm gonna just combine these. Wait, hold on. Let me read the recipe. Sprinkle half the thyme and rosemary leaves over the lamb. Okay, I'm gonna set it aside and mix them then. And what we'll do, we'll just, there. What else do I need to prep? I need a bouquet garni. Just gonna be some rosemary, some thyme. Last video we discussed how in the picture, or in the book, he calls for a bouquet garni to be, I think, rosemary, parsley, and bay leaves. But in the picture of the dish, there was thyme, there was garlic, there was all these other things tied into it. So I think at the end of the day, it ultimately does not matter as long as you have delicious herbs to season your food, or to flavor your food. I have these dried bay leaves. I'm going to use a lot more than I probably should because they're dry. Dried things lose potency. All right, there's our bouquet garni. Into our pan. gonna put in some olive oil over a medium-high heat. All right, this is looking nice and hot. You can tell it is because of the way it is. We're gonna take a tablespoon of butter, just drop it in there. And we're gonna let this go once the butter has foamed and subsided. Or until butter foam subsides. I don't know if this helps, but I feel like it helps, just swirling it around like that. You know what I forgot about? Something to serve this alongside this. So because I forgot about something to serve alongside this, we're gonna make polenta because that's what I have in the cupboard. So for our polenta side, we're gonna need 3 cups of water brought to a boil, along with some salt. I'm feeling pretty good about that butter and oil mixture there. So we're gonna take our lamb. We're gonna let this go, fat side down. And we're gonna go until it's brown on all sides, about 5 minutes total. Okay, he said about 5 minutes aside. Something I've learned over the course of cooking with this book, though, is cook times are always a little different, right? Anytime I follow the times in the recipe, it's always overcooked, so I'm opting to not do that. And in fact, I think that's what we're going to call it on these. Remove from the pan and set aside. So we're going to then discard fat from our pan. I don't feel good about just dumping it out into like the sink or something, so I'm going to just do one of these maneuvers. We'll deal with that later. Into this pan, we're going to take a cup of red wine. I've also turned the heat down quite a bit. Oh, he says to use a wooden spoon. I did it. Okay, now that this water is boiling, it's kind of hard to see. There we go. Now that this water is boiling, I'm going to put in my polenta. And I chopped up a bunch of fresh herbs as well to go with this so that everything all kind of tastes connected. Reduce our heat. Cook slowly for about 5 minutes. That's been reduced by half now, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to take, he calls for 2 cups of lamb stock. Where the hell am I going to get lamb stock if I can't find the right cut of lamb? So this is beef stock. Sue me. 2 cups. Our crushed garlic. Our bouquet agani. Bring to a boil. Cooking is a lot of hurry up and wait. That's why I like it. It gives me time to think about what happened throughout the day and what I can do differently or better tomorrow. Or even just decompress and not think about the day. You know? Polenta's done. So move this off the burner. Cover it. Now that this is at a boil, I'm going to turn the heat back down and let this simmer until it's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. I will see you then. This has thickened up quite a bit. I don't think it's as thick as he wants, but it's been like an hour, so I'm going to just move on with my night. We're going to then take this into a small pan and set aside. He says strain it. My strainer is dirty. Not bad for not actually straining it. There's one little rosemary leaf in there. We're gonna move over here. There's our loin lamb chops. We're going to take some breadcrumbs on the fat side. Just coat on the fat side. This is another reason I wanted to just move on, because these are cold. I'm gonna do it on this side as well. So we'll have some coated breadcrumb, and then we're gonna take about all of this and sprinkle this, our rosemary and thyme mixture. You can't really see what I'm doing. There we go. Sprinkling our rosemary and thyme mixture over that. Oh, that makes sense why things weren't sticking. I messed up. So we're gonna put mustard. That makes sense. We're gonna put mustard on these sides. And then that makes so much more sense. Reading is hard, okay? That makes so much more sense. Okay. So this is that roasting pan again. I'm gonna take out our bouquet garni, as well as our garlic and some of this other stuff. Into this pan, we're gonna put these back again. And then these are gonna go into our oven, which has been preheated to 375 degrees. And I'm gonna check in about 10 minutes, so see you then. So the lamb is about done, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pot with our sauce in it. We're gonna bring this to a boil, add in any remaining thyme or rosemary that you have. We're gonna add in any remaining thyme and rosemary we have, and we're gonna mount with some butter as well. While that's going, I'm going to check the temp of the lamb. Lamb's done. Plate. Can you see that? You can. Some polenta. Kind of a little ring in the shape there. We all know plating's not my strong suit, so it's kind of a ball. Why not? Balls can be fun. And then our lamb chops. We'll do that, and then he says to serve the sauce on the side of the lamb. So I also don't think I made it thick enough. Bone apple teeth. There's our rack of lamb. That's not a rack of lamb. I'm gonna take one of these. I'm gonna cut into it. I think that's a pretty good cut there, or a pretty good cook on that. I'm gonna take a little bit and dip in there. Oh my God, the mustard kind of comes out on the back tongue there, on the back of your tongue, after you've kind of chewed through everything else. It's very mild mustard. This is a very subtle dish, which means I probably did something wrong. The sauce is also friggin' amazing. I just wish I made it a little bit more thicker, but I mean, we were coming up on like an hour and a half of cooking here, and I was like, I'm done. It's still really good. I think if I were to do this again, getting a rack of lamb is the correct call to make. Maybe cooking the sauce down a bit more. I could have cheated and like threw in some cornstarch and made it thick, but I didn't want to do that to you guys. All in all, it's a pretty tasty dish. Figure out how to make the sauce reduce faster. See you on the flip side.